Hi, Fidel here. Today we're going to be making a huge batch of pizza dough using the recipe which I explained in the video, which was called "Can we make a better pizza dough without Caputo?" So, as you know, Caputo flour is one of the most famous brands, which comes from Naples, Italy, and it's world renowned, and probably many of the best Neapolitan pizza restaurants use that pizza dough. Well, through various experiments, I've come across something that happens to kind of rival that flavor, and I'm gonna share that with you today. So basically what it is we're gonna be using just a little bit of whole wheat flour. You can zoom in on that. This is a Japanese label, but it does say whole wheat flour there in English. I prefer to use organic whole wheat flour, but Costco didn't have any last time I was there, so I just picked up some from the local store here. And we're going to be using mostly bread flour. As you can see, there's a picture of bread there. And bread flour contains a lot higher protein. Let's see if you can zoom in right there. Of course, that's Japanese, but you'll see like a 12 grams there. That 12 grams means this is about 12% protein. So Caputo flour is much lower in protein. Well, not much lower. It's about another percentage or a percentage and a half lower protein. And so how we're going to achieve that or get close to it is we're going to do 3 parts bread flour, which will be all 12%, very strong flour. And then we're going to add what is used as cake flour. I know there's a picture of a shrimp there, but the Japanese use this cake flour for tempura, but it is cake flour. And cake flour's protein level, we can zoom in, and that same line here is 9 grams. So this is 9%. So if you have a calculator at home, you can calculate exactly what the total of this will be. By the way, the whole wheat flour's protein level. Let's see if we can find it here. This one is 14 grams. So this is quite high, but we're only going to be using 100 grams of this to go along with 1, 2, 3, 4 kilos of the other flours. Okay, so it's not gonna change the percentage all that much, but this 9% will change the profile considerably and probably bring it down a little bit, and it becomes a lot softer. So let's go ahead and get started. As you know, Neapolitan pizza dough is only 4 ingredients. There's no sugar and there's no oil. We have flour, water, yeast, and today I'm going to be using kind of a starter here. Yeast and salt, 4 things. This is a starter that I started last night around 7 p.m. It is now around 3 p.m. the next day, and as you can see, it's very alive. It smells a little yeasty because I guess it's had several hours to kind of multiply the yeast. So I started off with about 3/10 of a gram of yeast. Then I mixed in 40 grams of water and 40 grams of whole wheat flour. That's all I did, and then left it overnight. So we're going to use half of that for 1 batch. I'll be making 2 batches, but I'm only going to be making a video about 1 batch. Okay. Alright, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare and open up all our packages. I'll be using mostly one hand for the dry stuff and one hand for the wet stuff. And I'm going to prepare this, so I'm going to take about half of this. I have a scale here. This goes to the 1/10 of a gram. I mean, you don't need to use anything this fancy, but it comes in handy. I'm going to put a tear on that. Okay, it's down to 0. So I'm going to try to take about roughly 40 grams of this. That's 17.4. $5.7. What do we got here? 30. Yeah, that's close enough. Okay, so keep the cover on that because we'll be using that later. Okay, so we have our yeast, we have our salt, scale away. I'm going to start off by adding one of our strong flours, the bread flour first. Dump that both in there. No need to sift it. And at this point, I like to get this into the mixture because it's a lot easier to deal with when you can see the color difference. Can you see the color difference there? You got the white flour, and then you got the yeast, which is with a starter, which is all wheat flour. So you got the brown contrasted on the white, and this will help me to know if I've broken it up well enough. So I'm just going to start squeezing everything and moistening everything, and hopefully we can get that those brown chunks to kind of get blended in. If I didn't mention it before, this is cold water. This recipe: 100 grams whole wheat flour, 3 kilos of bread flour, 1 kilo of cake flour, 115 grams of sea salt, and the yeast is about 40 grams of the starter that I made, which I've already explained. Okay, so this is mixed well. Okay, so add the cake flour in next. Whole thing. You can see there's a little chunk of the yeast starter there, that's brown there, but for the most part it seems to be getting broken up nicely. I'm just using this kind of like squishing motion to distribute the moisture into the flour. There's a piece there. So just squeeze that up. If you've seen the process of making pizza dough before, you can go ahead and forward ahead. But if you're new to this kind of thing and you want to kind of learn the process and see everything coming together in its gradual form, just keep the video rolling. This will be kind of a long video, so okay, nothing's sticking to the edge. Okay, good. Now we're going to add another kilo of bread flour. probably well mixed in there right now. And I'm going to add the whole wheat flour. I'm going to grab that. And salt. Okay, kind of just a quick mix on top there. Mix that salt. And I'm going to add most of the final kilo of flour. But I'm squeezing at the back end of this bag because I want to save about a handful of flour, which is going to help me to clean the edges of the side of the bowl like this and so on, and then clean my hands later, and we will minimize product loss in that way. So again, I'm using this kind of squishing motion to kind of squeeze the moisture and the dry flour together, and this will help you to get a nice uniform level of moisture across your dough, which helps when you start kneading the dough. You shouldn't come across some parts that are super wet and sticky and other parts that are still dry, and you know, that kind of thing can happen, especially when you're doing large batches of dough. So it's important with large batches of dough to moisten everything to avoid that problem. About now I can feel the moisture kind of getting fairly distributed well. I can see moisture spots like right here. So I'm going to squeeze those parts and kind of twist them into the dry area. Not kneading yet. I'm not kneading the dough yet. Just squeezing. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and start kneading. Nice scooping and pushing, scooping and kind of punching it down, scooping, punch it down. Your hands get full of dough, just knock some of it off. It's not that important you get it all off your hands just yet. Scoop and punch. Scoop and punch. Scoop and punch. I'll try to wipe some of it off the bottom and the top as I go. On the sides. Scoop and punch. Scoop and punch. And so on. Yep, I'll get a little bit out of breath doing this. And you can really feel the difference between using all bread flour and then using something that's a little lower protein. So. Okay, about this time, I'm going to use some of the flour and clean off my hands and the side of this big bucket. Okay, clean it off the bottom. The sides there. Let's get it all in. Fairly clean there. Okay, now I'll just get my hands clean with a little bit left there, and we're going to give this a rest. When we come back, it should be fairly easy to deal with. It should be all coming together, and we should start to get it nearly into a smooth ball. Yep, I'm a little out of breath, but this is good exercise. Okay. Use the rest of the flour there. Oops. So we'll have very little, if any, waste. That's clean enough, I think. Okay. I'm going to punch this down just a few more times to get those dry crumbs inside. Okay, we're going to leave that to rest. We're going to leave that to rest for about 10 minutes. And when we come back, I'll take you through the next couple of kneads and then some stretches and folds. And then we'll have a finished dough. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. It's been resting with a cover. And we're going to go ahead and continue the process. I've got a counter here, and I'm not flouring it. Wonder why. I never do. I don't really feel there's a need to. I think if you make the dough properly, I think the dough's going to stick to itself. So what I'm going to do is pull out this lump and go to work on it in a second. Pull this together real quick. A couple of quick kneads to. I want to get everything that was on the side of the wall here incorporated in there real quick before I do pull it out. So you can see down there, there's some stuff here that don't have to be perfect, but I try to be as close to perfect as possible. Get as much of that off. Slap it on the dough. Okay. Some few more pieces there. I think this is somewhere in the range of 7 kilos. Maybe. So you have a pretty big dough ball. Well, there's a little over 4 kilos of flour, 2.6 kilos of water, and yeah, you can see there's a dry spot there. There's a kind of dry spot. So there's no big deal at this point because we're going to be doing this process a few more times. So you can see I didn't even flour here, and it seems like we did a good job with the moisture and sticking to itself. I'm going to kind of roll it out. You kind of try to make a mini sausage out of it, and you can fold it in on itself and do it again. Working with big chunks of dough. It's different from from working with small chunks of dough. How long should you do this for? You should time me, because I'm going to do this 2 more times. We won't video the next 2 times, but we'll video the last time. Maybe the next time I'll skip, and then we'll video the last time so you can see exactly how the dough looks at that point. It's starting to get kind of smooth. Still a little patchy, but starting to get smooth. But it won't get fully smooth until our last time on this process. Right now I'm just making sure it gets a good mixing, a good kneading, building structure. Yeah, at this point, don't worry about creating even more tears and chunks like that. The important thing is we're getting it some structure and finishing that distribution of moisture. Okay. So at this point, we have kind of a patchy looking dough chunk, but that's perfectly fine at this point. We'll see it get smooth after 2 more of these knead. As you can see, we didn't need to flour our surface. I mean, there's nothing here. It's not going to stick, so hands are relatively clean. Just a little patch there, but pretty clean. Okay, and we'll be back. Oh, another 10 minutes. I'm going to do this again. Another 10 minutes, and then I'll video the last 10 minutes. Okay? Okay, so the dough's been through 2 vigorous kneadings, and we're going to do 1 more, but this last one's not going to be so vigorous. This one's just going to be a little bit of stretching, and then we're going to try to fold it and try to kind of trap a little air in there, here and there, and we're just going to try to bring it all together into a nice smooth dough ball. In fact, it's already pretty smooth. In fact, I have my other dough that I've made in this one. This is not the one we made together in the video so far. This is the second batch that I started while the camera was off, and you can see this is kind of what it looked like after. This really hasn't had any vigorous kneading yet, but it's all come together. It is one chunky dough ball, and it's it's just really patchy there. Let's take a look at what it's going to look like. This is the dough you and I have been making together, and you can see this one is quite smooth. Okay, and so we're gonna go ahead and give this one its final knead. As you know, the other kneadings we did were very vigorous. We were punching and folding it over and kind of rolling it and folding it over. So we're gonna do a little bit more of that, but we're not going to go to the point of tearing it again. We're just going to get it, put a little bit more air into it, and we're going to just make sure it stays smooth, and we're going to put it back into this, where it's going to ferment until pizza day. So let's go ahead and pull this guy out. At this point, it should come out quite nicely, I think. Yeah, you can see it start to come out. Sometimes what I do is I'll just set it on here and I'll go do something else. When I come back, it's usually out. So I'll give it a little bit of help. I don't want to take in too much of your valuable time. Okay, at this point, if there's any stray pieces of dough that didn't make it, this point you can stick it in there, but for the most part, that's all of it right there, okay? So, again, I don't do this on a floured surface. Okay, I'll fold that over. Let's roll it. Okay. You know, you see some little bits of air getting in there. Not too concerned about those bubbles. In fact, it's just a good sign that there is some air trapped in there. Okay, now it's kind of getting a little tight to work with, so about this time I'm going to end the process on this dough. Okay, almost. Okay, so it comes together. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, that's our dough. It's going to go in here. Today is Sunday. We're going to let this sit for 3 days. Why? Well, weather's pretty cold. I expect a slow fermentation, and it's going to be quite flavorful. I think 3 days at room temperature. In this winter cold. My house isn't that cold. I think it's probably indoors. It's probably around 67 or 66 degrees. I don't know. Let's check. I could be wrong. Wait there. Wait there. Let's see. It is no. Yeah, it's about 66 degrees in my house at the moment. So that dough is finished, and we'll see it on pizza day. Actually, maybe I'll ball this dough the night before. I'll let you know what I decide, okay? But for now, that's the end of the process. This is the dough that is made, kind of a copycat dough of Caputo. So, and we'll try it together.